At some point in your life, someone told you a lie. It wasn't meant to hurt you, but it was devastating. They told you that wealth was for people who were born in the right place, knew the right people, or simply had more luck than you. And you believed it, because it was easier to believe that than to face the possibility that the problem wasn't the system. It was the map you were following. Today I'm going to show you the right map. But first, you need to know that what you're about to hear will contradict almost everything you've ever been taught about money. Because the truth about how wealth is built in the United States isn't glamorous. And there's no magic formula. No secret shortcut reserved exclusively for the rich. There's a system. And the system is something any disciplined person can learn to follow no matter where they're starting from. No matter how late they think it already is. Let me ask you something I want you to really sit with before you answer. Because do you know exactly how much money came into your account last month and where every single cent of it actually went? If you hesitated even for a second, you just found the first problem. And most people never realize this is the real starting point before any investment, before any strategy, before anything else. Most people who try to build wealth here in the US jump straight into investments without understanding their own cash flow. And that single mistake quietly costs them years of real and compounding progress. It's like trying to build a skyscraper without laying the foundation first, because the building might rise a few floors, but at some point the whole structure collapses under its own weight. Without knowing where your money is going every month, any raise or extra income just disappears into a lifestyle that expands faster than your savings account ever could. And the cycle never breaks. That has a name. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's silently destroying more wealth in the United States than any recession, any market crash, or any economic crises in modern history ever has. Think about it this way. Someone earns $20,000 a year and barely saves anything, then gets a raise and starts making $40,000. And what happens next is almost always the same story. The apartment gets bigger, the car gets newer, the dinners get more expensive, and at the end of the month, the savings account looks exactly the same as it did before the raise ever happened. The income doubled, but the wealth didn't move at all. And that is the cycle that quietly traps millions of hardworking Americans in an exhausting race that leads absolutely nowhere they actually want to go. And the number behind this reality is genuinely alarming, because according to the Federal Reserve, nearly half of all adults in the United States couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money from someone else. $400, not $4,000. Not $40,000. Just $400 standing between half the American population and an immediate financial crisis that could unravel everything they've worked for. That's not a lack of income. That's a lack of system. And understanding that difference is the exact moment when everything about how you see your own financial life begins to shift. So the first real step before any investment and before any strategy is to build the foundation by understanding exactly what comes in and what goes out every single month without exception. You don't need an accountant. You don't need expensive software. You just need honest numbers in front of you and the willingness to face whatever those numbers are actually telling you right now. After that foundation is clear, the second pillar comes into focus. And this one sounds simple, but it's exactly where most people completely fall apart the moment life decides to test them. The emergency fund is not a luxury, it's armor, because it's the only thing that stands between an unexpected job loss, a medical bill, or a broken down car and years of financial progress disappearing overnight. The standard recommendation is between 3 and 6 months of expenses saved in a high liquidity account, meaning money you can reach immediately the moment life stops cooperating with your plans. Without that cushion, any unexpected expense becomes debt. And debt, especially credit card debt in the United States, is where wealth quietly and permanently goes to die every single day. Credit card interest rates in America are hovering around 22% annually right now, which means a $5,000 unpaid balance grows by more than $1,000 in interest every single year it stays unpaid. While you're stuck paying that interest, you are not building anything for yourself. You are building wealth for the institution that handed you that card and hoped you'd never fully pay it off. That's why the third pillar is eliminating high-cost debt before ever thinking about investing. Because not paying 22% per year is itself a guaranteed return that beats almost any conventional investment available. When you pay off a debt at 22% interest, you just locked in a 22% return on that money. And no stock market on earth consistently offers that kind of certainty to ordinary people. Now, we've reached the point where most financial videos actually begin, but here, with the foundation already built, the entire game changes in a way that most people are never truly prepared to experience. With solid ground beneath you, the next step is investing. And the most powerful strategy isn't the most sophisticated one. It's simply the one you can actually commit to without second-guessing yourself every single month when things get difficult. In the United States, the most accessible vehicle for the average person is an index fund, a fund that tracks the performance of a broad market index like the S&P 500 without requiring you to pick individual winners. The S&P 500 brings together the 500 largest companies in America. So investing in it means you're not betting on any single business, you're betting on the long-term growth of the entire American economy. Historically, that index has returned an average of 10% per year over the last 100 years. And while not every year was positive, the long-term trajectory has always pointed upward without exception. This is exactly where the concept that separates true wealth builders from people who simply earn a paycheck finally comes into play, and it is far more powerful than most people ever give it credit for. Compound interest takes what you invest today and multiplies it not once, but continuously across decades, turning small, consistent contributions into sums that seem almost impossible when you first run the numbers. A 25-year-old who invests just $300 a month at an average 10% annual return will have over $1.5 million waiting at age 65, built from nothing but consistency and time. That same person who waits until 35 and invests $600 a month, doubled the amount, will still arrive at 65 with less money than the person who simply started 10 years earlier with half as much. Time is more powerful than the amount you invest, and every single year of delay carries a real and permanent financial cost that most people never calculate until the window to fully recover has already quietly closed. But there is one critical detail that determines whether this entire system holds together or slowly falls apart, and it is the detail most people overlook even after they understand everything else. Consistency only works when investing becomes completely automatic, because when you have to consciously decide every month whether or not to invest, eventually life will hand you a convincing reason to say, not this month. Automate the transfer on payday so the money moves into your investment account before you ever see it, before you can spend it on something that feels urgent in the moment but won't matter in 10 years. Pay yourself first without exception, and then manage whatever is left for everything else. Because that single change in the order of operations is what separates people who build real wealth from people who always plan to start next month. And here we return to the most dangerous enemy in this entire process. The one that operates so quietly that most people never even realize it has been working against them the whole time. When you receive a raise, the pressure to immediately upgrade your lifestyle is overwhelming, because a new car feels deserved, a bigger place feels earned, and more expansive experiences feel like the natural reward for everything you've worked so hard to achieve. But most people never see that a large portion of those around them who appear to be living that elevated life are financing every single piece of it on credit, with no emergency fund, no investments, and nothing real underneath the surface. Real wealth does not show up in the car in your driveway or the neighborhood where you live. It shows up quietly on an investment statement that nobody around you will ever see or know about. People spend money, they don't have to buy things, they don't need to impress people they don't even like, and the entire economy around you is specifically engineered to keep that cycle running without interruption forever. The antidote isn't deprivation or a joyless life of constant sacrifice. It's being deeply intentional, spending where it genuinely matters to you and cutting ruthlessly where it doesn't, then directing the difference toward assets that grow while you sleep. Building real wealth in the United States does not require genius, extraordinary luck, or a six-figure salary. It requires a system, control the flow, build the emergency fund, eliminate expensive debt, invest consistently, and never let your lifestyle outpace your net worth. Most people quit before they ever see the results because the early years are quiet and invisible, and the world around you is constantly offering louder, more exciting, and more immediately satisfying ways to spend every dollar you earn. But if you stay with the system, the wealth you've been quietly building begins to generate more than you could spend. And at that exact moment, money stops being a source of fear and becomes something far more valuable than any purchase ever could be. It becomes freedom. The freedom to wake up and choose how you spend your time without a financial emergency waiting around every corner. And that freedom is available to anyone willing to make the decision today and not wait for perfect conditions that will never arrive. If this video shifted the way you think about even one thing, drop your comment below and tell me what you're going to change starting today. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's coming next. And leave a like because it helps this message reach every person out there who needs to hear it.